On the night the Titanic slipped beneath the Atlantic, the world believed it had witnessed the end of a ship. What it did not realize was that it had also witnessed the beginning of a story that would be rewritten for more than a century. Before we begin, if you're drawn to the hidden layers of history, the details that surfaced long after the headlines fade, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes, the most important part of a story is not the disaster itself, but what was decided afterward. When the RMS Titanic left Southampton in April of 1912, it carried more than passengers. It carried reputation, ambition, and the confidence of an era convinced that engineering had finally outrun nature. The ship was described as the largest movable object ever built. It was celebrated as nearly unsinkable. It represented progress, a floating symbol of modernity cutting through the North Atlantic. On the night of April 14th, the ocean was calm. The sky was clear. The temperature was falling. At 11:40 p.m., the iceberg appeared too late. What followed has been told countless times. The scraping impact, the disbelief, the gradual understanding that water was entering compartments designed to contain it, the orchestra playing. The lifeboats lowered in uneven sequence. The final plunge into freezing darkness in the early hours of April 15th. More than 1,500 lives were lost. But the story did not end when the ship disappeared beneath the surface. It shifted. In the days that followed, newspapers rushed to print explanations. Some early reports insisted that all passengers had been saved. Others described heroism, chaos, sacrifice. The truth moved slowly, carried by wireless transmissions and survivor testimony. And almost immediately, questions began to form. How could a ship declared so advanced sink on its maiden voyage? Why were there not enough lifeboats for everyone on board? Why were ice warnings not treated with greater urgency? Public grief quickly became public scrutiny. 2 official investigations were launched, one in the United States, another in Britain. Survivors were questioned in long sessions. Officers described the speed of the ship. Wireless operators recounted the flood of messages. Executives from the White Star Line defended design choices. Each answer shaped perception. The narrative could not simply be tragedy. It had to become explanation. In those hearings, language mattered. Words like unsinkable were reframed as exaggerations by the press. The number of lifeboats, while insufficient for all souls aboard, was technically compliant with maritime regulations of the time. Technically compliant. That phrase carried weight because regulations had been written for ships far smaller than the Titanic. The law had not kept pace with ambition. And so, the disaster became not only a story of ice and steel, but of policy and oversight. In the months that followed, international conventions were revised. Lifeboat requirements were expanded. Continuous radio watch became mandatory. Ice patrols were established in the North Atlantic shipping lanes. Reform emerged from catastrophe, but even as rules changed, myths began to form. Stories of locked third-class passengers circulated widely, some exaggerated, some rooted in confusion and structural barriers that limited access to upper decks. Tales of cowardice and bravery hardened into legend. Certain individuals were immortalized as villains, others as saints. Memory simplified what reality had complicated. For decades, the Titanic remained a symbol of arrogance, of class division, of human vulnerability. Books were written, films were produced, the ship became less a vessel and more a metaphor. Then, in 1985, more than 70 years after it sank, the wreck was discovered nearly 4,000 meters below the surface of the Atlantic. It lay broken in two, scattered across the ocean floor. The discovery did something powerful. It shifted the story again. For the first time, people could see the ship not as illustration or imagination, but as silent steel resting in darkness. Photographs revealed shoes where bodies had once been. Personal belongings lay undisturbed. The bow, still recognizable, appeared almost dignified in its decay. The wreck transformed myth into artifact, and with artifact came new questions. Why had the ship broken apart as it sank? Earlier testimony had suggested it went down intact. Structural analysis now told a different story. Advances in metallurgy allowed experts to examine recovered fragments of hull plating. Rivets were studied. Steel composition was debated. Each new analysis refined the narrative. The Titanic was no longer simply a cautionary tale about speed or hubris. It became a case study in materials science, maritime engineering, crisis response, and media influence. Even the iceberg itself, once portrayed as a sudden, singular villain, became part of a broader discussion about North Atlantic conditions, seasonal ice patterns, and the limitations of early 20th century navigation. The disaster had been instantaneous. The interpretation has taken more than a century, and still, the story evolves. Modern expeditions to the wreck site have revealed accelerating decay. Bacteria slowly consume the iron. Structures that once defined the silhouette of the ship collapse year by year. Time continues its quiet work. There is something haunting in that reality. The Titanic was once described as unsinkable. Now it is dissolving, yet its cultural presence remains immense. It continues to inspire documentaries, debates, and research. It continues to raise questions about technology and overconfidence. It continues to remind us that systems, regulatory, mechanical, human, are only as strong as their assumptions. Perhaps that is why the Titanic endures, not because it sank, but because of what followed. The investigations that reshaped maritime law, the survivor testimonies that preserved human detail, the discovery of the wreck that redefined understanding, the slow process of correcting exaggeration and confronting myth. The ship became a mirror reflecting the optimism of an age that believed progress guaranteed safety, a mirror reflecting class divisions embedded in design and evacuation patterns, a mirror reflecting how institutions respond when failure becomes undeniable, and beneath it all lies a quieter truth. On that calm April night, most passengers went to bed believing the future was stable. The voyage was luxurious. The machinery was reliable. The horizon was clear. Then, within hours, certainty fractured. History often turns not on grand speeches or declarations, but on moments when assumptions fail. The Titanic reminds us that confidence can outpace caution, that regulation can lag behind innovation, that disaster can force reform, but only after irreversible loss. It also reminds us that memories constructed, we inherit simplified versions of events. We repeat phrases like unsinkable without examining who said them and why. We imagine clear villains and heroes, when reality often consists of imperfect decisions made under pressure. The Atlantic remains vast and indifferent. Shipping lanes continue to cross those waters. Icebergs still drift south in certain seasons, But ships today carry enough lifeboats for all on board. They maintain constant radio watch. They receive detailed satellite ice reports. Policy changed because steel met ice. More than a century later, the Titanic rests in darkness, unreachable to most, slowly returning to the elements from which it was forged. Yet its lesson floats on. If this story reshaped the way you think about history, not as a fixed narrative, but as something revised, questioned, and rediscovered over time, take a moment now to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because the past is never only what happened. It is what we learn, and sometimes the most enduring ships are the ones that sank.